Hi everyone, it's Chelsea from Smoldering Serpents. It has been a while, a long while since I posted on YouTube. And I just wanted to do a quick update video on the channel and what the plans are for it. At this point it's obvious I am not keeping up with posting videos. It's just a lot more work than I thought it would be, honestly. Major respect to people who put out, nicely made content on a regular basis. It's a lot of work. So the plan right now is to kind of just ease off of the YouTube channel. Excuse the sniffing in the background, my dog joined me. Hi. So the plan right now is to ease up from, thank you, Gracie, to ease up from posting videos. I'm going to leave the channel up for the foreseeable future. I have no reason to take it down. I'll answer questions in comments or messages as they're asked. I still see notifications from it. So I'm going to leave all the videos up, and I also want to tie up a couple ends, make a couple more videos that I've kind of had in my mind for a good long while. So if you have any suggestions for some videos for me to make before I kind of call it on the channel, that would be great. I can't guarantee I'll make them because, like I said, I just don't have the time and energy to be keeping up with this. So I'm not going to be able to put out, 10 more videos before kind of just letting it sit. So the ones that I have in my mind that I've had a script written out for actually for over a year, I have a very long one on my thoughts on how to be an ethical snake breeder. Obviously, this is going to be a lot of opinion and just a lot of kind of explaining how we do things and why we do it. And these are just questions that I see getting talked about a lot, or that people ask me on a regular basis. So it's just kind of putting all those general thoughts about breeding snakes together into one video. So that one's obviously going to be pretty long. This is partly why I haven't made it yet, because it's a little intimidating, because I really want to do it right. And I think that's kind of also the problem with keeping up with this channel, is I just have a vision in my head of how I want my videos to be. Nothing overproduced, not a lot of edits or anything like that, but I just have a certain vision in my head of how I want my videos to be. And I'm just not happy with anything less than that. So I kind of make it hard on myself, because I don't want to just throw out a bunch of random, poorly shot or poorly edited or short videos without much point to them. Like I want to make each video count. So part of that is also what holds me back from making these, is just the intimidation of the amount of work that I want to put into them. So the ethical breeder one is definitely going to be the big one, and it's probably going to be, besides the whole tour of our setup, probably going to be the longest video on the channel. So I still completely intend on making that. And I also want to do another one on feeding guidelines, which again is going to be a lot of my own opinion and experience, and just explaining how we do things, why we do things a certain way. Just an overview of all things feeding though. How we feed babies, how we feed adults, different types of prey, frequency, things that we've noticed with growth and weight maintenance and body tones and all these things, everything to do with feeding snakes, because this is a topic that comes up a lot. Obviously, snakes are eating machines, basically. So the topic of diet and how to feed and when to feed and all that jazz comes up a lot. So I just wanted to answer a lot of the questions that I get asked on near daily basis from people on how we do things. So that's another one. Hopefully it won't be as long as the ethical breeder one, but it's still going to need a lot of work put into it. I want it to be really thorough. So those two are the ones that I for sure want to do before I stop making YouTube content. If you have any other suggestions that you feel would just be like an important video that I add to the channel, or just something you really would like me to cover, feel free to suggest it. I will definitely consider it. Like I said, I only have those two right now that I want to do. They're big ones, but I definitely would be open to another video or two if it's, really recommended that from people that I do it. There's a third one possibly, as I don't believe I ever finished up the Meet Our Snakes series. I believe there is one more kind of other colubrids video that was intended to feature the falsies, the cribbos, and various other species that didn't fit into the other videos that I made. So I think I'll still do that one just to round it up. Obviously, our group of snakes has changed a little bit in the last year or two. But, you know, we still have the falsies, we still have the cribbos, we still have other species that would fit into that video and haven't been introduced on the channel yet. So I think I'll do that. All that being said, this isn't going to be a super exciting video because I'm not actually able to show you a whole lot right now, and I honestly don't have the motivation to make a whole well put together video. But I can't work on the other ones right now because a lot of our snakes have gone down for brumation. So I'm actually missing a lot of my snakes in the room right now. Their lights are off, they're in the wine coolers. So all these plans are for springtime, and that's when I'll be releasing those videos for sure. Yeah, but other than that, just an update on things, you know, in general around here. Everything's going well. Everyone's healthy. Everything's going, you know, according to how we plan it and how we hope things will go. Like I said, there's a bunch in the wine coolers for brumation, so I obviously miss those guys being around. It's a little bit less work, but I also miss seeing their little faces watching me, and all the cages being dark is kind of like feels like we're really settling into winter. We've shut down shipping for the season at this point, so we have about 30 hatchlings that'll be staying with us through the winter, which is great. I have no complaints. I never rush them out the door. I always prefer to sell yearlings or near yearlings, so no complaints there. We have a bunch of calico black rats. We have a bunch of Gulf hammock rat snakes, a lot of Baird's rat snakes, all the little baby rat snakes that I love watching them grow. I love watching them get established and being able to give suggestions based on their personalities to potential homes. So yeah, no complaints about them staying over the winter, that's for sure. Other than that, I think there's not much to report. I mean, anyone who follows us on social media knows that I'm keeping up with that just fine. I get lots of pictures to share with you for sure. It's just getting the video content to be put together in the way that I want it to be. I think at the end of this video, I might tack on just a really brief glimpse into our wine coolers that we have the snakes and brumation. Another video I wanted to do, but I just haven't gotten around to it, and I'm just not gonna have time or energy to do it, is a brumation video, because I'm asked about this a lot, and there are some good sources of information, a couple individual people who give really good advice walking through the whole process, but I personally have been asked every year, many, many, many times, how to brumate a snake, how we brumate snakes, and I think a video would be really great. I just, you know, I kind of wanted to start shooting that as things were being settled down, as the snakes were being, you know, weaned off food and the lights were gradually shut down. I wanted to start the video back then, which was about a month ago, and it just never happened. There's just a lot happening in life right now, and my intentions are there to make these videos, but the time and motivation has just not been there for YouTube. So I think I'll give you a quick glimpse into the wine coolers though, because people really ask a lot about it, and it certainly will not be a how-to guide, that's for sure, but it will be just a little look into how things look. But anyways, otherwise, I hope I will see all of you in the spring for these videos that I mentioned. Like I said, make suggestions if you'd really like something to be made before I call it on the YouTube channel. Otherwise, I appreciate all of you. I didn't think the YouTube channel will get the traction that it did in such a short amount of time, and I do feel it's a bit of a shame for me to walk away from it, but I just acknowledge the reality that it's not something I can keep up with, and my priorities have to lie elsewhere. So hopefully I'll see you guys in the spring for some new content, and otherwise, obviously regular posts on social media. And yeah, hope you all have a great day. So we have 2 wine coolers that we use for brumation. We didn't always, but the number of snakes that we need to cool has gone up a lot. I believe this is the second winter now that we've had 2 coolers going, and we divide them based on temperature. We have a smaller one upstairs that is, well, at this point, just reserved for the Russian rats. We have 4 of them that need to cool, and that wine cooler is quite small. So we just have the 4 Russian rats in that one, and that one we dropped down to mid-40s. And the bigger one down here, which is the newer cooler, can house a lot more snakes. At this point, I believe we have 6 of them in there, and those are the North American colubrids mostly, as well as the Japanese rats. And that one we keep in the mid-50s, low to mid-50s, because they just don't need as cold a temperature to shut down. So I'm going to give you a brief look into them. Obviously, I can't stand there with the door wide open. They are supposed to be, in an undisturbed, largely undisturbed state right now. So I'll give you a quick peek in. We'll see if anybody's out and about. You'll notice in this bigger cooler, the tubs are, I'm not sure the exact size of them. I would guess they're maybe about 20 quarts, 25 quarts. They're fantastic tubs. They fit almost exactly inside this cooler and they stack beautifully. So with a couple modifications just for security to make sure that the snakes can't get out, because we have snakes like Baron, our male calico black rat snake, in there, and he is a big boy. So if he really wanted to push and get out, he could out of most tubs if you just buy them off the shelf. So we had to modify them a little bit. But yeah, these tubs are really great. They allow us to stack. Well, we have 6 in there right now, and I believe we probably could get another one in there if we needed to. I'm just trying to think of what I should talk about before I open the cooler, because like I said, it's going to be a quick look at it. But I also want to give some information. So for brumation in general, ventilation is very important. I drill 1/4-inch holes all around all 4 sides of brumation tubs, as well as usually a couple in the lid, just all around airflow. Bedding, I used a dry bedding, usually cocoa mulch, any kind of wood mulch really. I like to use like a light airy type of mulch, again for airflow. Sometimes they tip their water dishes, so you want something that can handle being wet, like aspen's a no-go. We used to use aspen many years ago, and it just molds. It molds as soon as it gets even the slightest bit wet. If there's condensation anywhere in the tub, you're gonna get mold. Aspen's not an ideal bedding for many reasons, but definitely not for brumation, where there's a lot of humidity and potential moisture at play. I had a lot of people ask if I modify the wine coolers themselves for airflow. I do not. I know a lot of people do and a lot of people don't. I give the door, I open the door and give it a little whoosh every day or 2. I've never had an issue. We've never had respiratory issues, anything like that. We've never had a problem during brumation. The snakes just shut down a lot more than I think people are expecting if they've never brumated a snake. So while they do need fresh air, it's not the same as sticking half a dozen, fully awake active snakes in an enclosed space. So I don't modify the coolers at all. Well, I do, but only to black out the front doors because I don't want any light getting in there. Other than that, after I give you a peek, I'll give you a real quick rundown on how we cool them down, the process that it takes to cool them down, and then how we bring them up. And then that'll be it for now. So here's the large cooler. This is a newer one. I insulated the door with some 1/2-inch foam, and then I lined it with black, well, a garbage bag, honestly, just because it looks nicer. But blocked out the light. So in here, you can see these cages stack really nice. If we needed to, we could add another 1 or 2 even. They are set to 54 right now. Usually they stay tucked away. You can see Jazz is out. Baron's out. Baron typically stays hidden, but sometimes he's cruising. And Luthien is usually out, and I see she's tucked away now. But yeah, so this is our setup for the North American snakes usually, plus the Japanese rat snakes. So this is our mid-50s cooler for kind of like it's still a full brumation, but on the lighter side with temperatures. And here's our smaller cooler. This houses the Russian rat snakes. I've been moving around a lot, so they've come out and about, but they're usually very nicely settled in for winter. Here we have Tanara and her mother, Annapel. We have her father, Kirill, and at the bottom here we have Kavaki. So these guys are kept mid-40s, and I definitely try not to disturb them much. This is just a quick glimpse of them, and they've felt me moving around for a bit, so they'll go back to being tucked in their hides usually, as they are for the entire winter. So that was a quick look at our brumation setups, and I'm just going to give a real quick rundown on the actual process. Like I said, this is not as thorough of a video on the process as I'd like to do in theory, but hopefully this will at least answer a couple questions people might have. So about mid-October, we give them their last meal. It's just a normal sized meal, nothing huge, nothing small, just a normal sized meal. Then we give them about 2 weeks with all their lights and all their heat on, just like normal. 2 full weeks to empty out and digest everything. After that, I turn off all their lights and heat. So they remain in their cages, but with no lights, no LED, no heat bulb, nothing. They're just at room temperature in the dark in their cages. So they get another week like that. And usually at the end of that week, they will really be kind of in brumation mode. You know, I get a lot of people asking, you know, don't you feel bad putting them in the small tubs over winter, or people who hesitate to put their own snakes for brumation because they feel bad about the small brumation tubs. And that's totally fair. There is always that every winter, you know, and obviously I have made a lot of really big complex cages for them to live in the rest of the year. So putting them in these tubs always just kind of feel like I should apologize to them. But the reality is that by the time those 3 weeks are up after their last meal, they really have gone into brumation mode. All the snakes that we cool are mostly snakes who kind of go into that mode on their own. So they will eventually start refusing food as the cold temperatures set in outside. They can sense the seasonal changes. Even though we try to control their environment in captivity, they can still sense that winter has set in. So by the time these 3 weeks are up, they've really started to wind down. You know, after the week is up of them in the dark at room temperature in their cages, we'll move them to their brumation tubs. And at this point, they're fairly dormant. Of the 10 snakes that you saw there in the wine coolers, we don't have any issues with any of them doing excessive pacing, no rubbing of any sort, no real restless behavior. They'll make a couple laps, they'll check out their new situation, and then they'll usually curl up either in their hide or out, but they usually settle in really quick. So after we put them into their brumation tubs, they go into the wine coolers immediately. However, the wine coolers are set to be as warm as they possibly can be. So that's usually mid-high 60s. So they're given a couple days just to settle down, get used to their new surroundings, and then we start lowering the temperature. And I usually lower the temperature about, there's no magic, but usually I go a degree every day or sometimes 2 degrees at a time. It really depends. Depends on the weights of the snakes and all that, because the longer they stay at warmer temperatures without food, the more weight they're going to lose. So it is good to get them down to brumation temperature quickly, but you also need to be safe about it. So usually a degree or 2 every day. And obviously the warmer cooler downstairs with the mostly North American snakes doesn't have far to go. So we put them into the cooler at mid-60s and they only need to go down to mid-50s. So it takes less than a week for them to get down to brumation temperatures. The Russian rat cooler needs to go down, a full 20 plus degrees to get to brumation temperature. So that's more of a process. But yeah, once they're down at brumation temperature, they sit there for about 2 months. Now, during that time, we try not to disturb them. They do need fresh, drinkable water at all times. So Luckily, the fact that they're not eating and therefore not really producing waste, as well as the fact that the water is obviously kept quite cold, means that the water stays relatively fresh for much longer than it would in the cage normally. So we do a water change every week or two, somewhere in there. Obviously, if anyone's water looks even remotely dirty, it's just getting changed when we see it. But we try not to disturb them. You know, the most important thing is to just not disturb them so they can fully settle into that brumation cycle. Usually once in the middle, we will take them out and do a weight check. If you cool a snake to the correct temperature, they should not lose any significant weight at all for brumation. Russian rats, if we've kept them above 50, which we have before, they will lose weight. If you keep them below 50, they will not lose weight, and sometimes we even have them a little bit heavier coming out of brumation. I assume it's water weight. It could only be. So, yeah, usually end of December, we'll do a weight check on everyone, just make sure everyone's good, looking healthy. We don't hear any kind of respiratory issues. And we've never had these issues, so it's all precaution. It's all just to double, triple check that they're healthy. Brumation is definitely a tough process on their bodies, but it is one that does benefit them in the end. Springtime, we just bring them up nice and gradually, just like how we brought them down. We usually go up a degree or two every day. Once they're up, as warm as the wine coolers will allow them to be, we put them back in their cages in the dark, no heat. It's just an exact reverse of how we bring them down. We give them a couple days just to readjust to being in their cage, and then their lights go on, and then we give them a week of heat, and then we begin feeding them. Now, after they come up, I always start with a half-sized meal, and I usually dust it with probiotics. Nutrabac or Benebac is what I use. It's not necessary, but you know, they've been down with nothing digesting all winter, and it definitely does not hurt them to give them a little boost in their digestive system. So yeah, they get their first half-size meal, and then after that, we're going as usual. So that's just a quick overview of brumation. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask. I will answer any and all questions. But that wraps it up for this video. Like I said, I hope to see you all in spring for the other videos that I mentioned. And have a great day.